In this episode of Vinyl Haul, I've got some new records and some reissues, as well as some classic and not so classic metal oldies. Bit of a mixed bag this month, but I think you'll dig it. First up is the second full-length release for doom metal band Thronehammer. This is Incantation Rites, released in 2021 by Supreme Chaos Records. So the thing about this record was, I was gonna review it a couple months back. This took 3 months to get to me from the day I ordered it. Funny thing about that is, if you check Amazon, at least the US store, it's in stock. So I guess my wait is your convenience. So have at it if you need it. Great little album. It's definitely doom metal. It's both epic and sludgy, which I kind of dig. The vocals are usually clean, epic vocals, occasional death growls, but mostly clean vocals. Pretty cool. Of course, the cover art might lead you to believe this is a death metal album. It's got a little bit of that going on, but this is doom metal. Also wanted to show you the gatefold here. Shots of the band and the back. The vinyl variant for this title is 2LP transparent red. Limited to 200 copies. They were hand numbered, but they were hand numbered on the hype sticker. I got number 153. Hard to read, it's black on brown, but there it is. Also, you get an ad for Supreme Chaos Records, some of their titles, some more of their titles, and also an insert with full lyrics and some credits. I'm not sure if these come with the record, but I did get them with my order. I got a sticker, a little Thronehammer sticker here of the cover, as well as an I Love Vinyl sticker from Supreme Chaos Records. So, there it is. As for favorites, the middle 3 songs on the album are definitely that. Eternal Thraldom, A Fading King, and Beneath Black Cloud Masses. Especially that last track, definitely my favorite. I would start with Beneath Black Cloud Masses, great song. I did hear that the first album is a little more straightforward metal, a little less doomy. I'm not sure if that's true. It's basically what I read on the internet. If you know better, let me know in the comments. Let me know if that album's worth hearing, because I dig what I'm hearing here. I'm kind of interested in hearing that first album, so definitely let me know. Next up is the latest live album from British gothic rock band Paradise Lost. This is At the Mill, released in 2021 by Nuclear Blast Records. So right away, one thing that's obvious about this performance is that stylistically, Paradise Lost varies a bit here. They go through their history, basically. You know, this is a band that evolved quite a bit from their early Death Doom sound into the other things they went into. So this record reflects that history and that evolution a bit. So if you like all phases of Paradise Lost, you'll probably be more into this record, but I still say if you're an old fan or a new fan, you're going to get something out of it, because it's a great performance. So a couple things about the sound here. The bass is notably up in the mix. I like that. I play bass. It's got a bit of like sort of clangy and prominent sound to it. I wouldn't say it's quite Dee Dee Verney clangy. Maybe not such Steve Harris clangy. He's got a little bit of that sound him as well. It's not a muted bass. It's very strong. It's in there. Nick's vocals are a bit less processed than they are on studio tracks. So there's that. There's a very cleanness to his vocals, so that's pretty cool. I know his voice kind of varies from track to track in general, but he sounds pretty good on this. Has a sort of stripped down sound, but it still works well. It's good stuff. Should also give you a shot at the gatefold here. Picture of the band and the back. Vinyl variant for this one is 2LP green splatter. This is a European variant, limited to 300 copies. I think there was a blue splatter and at least one other color, I can't remember. Also, we should go through favorite tracks here. Fall from Grace, of course, one of my favorite songs in Obsidian. It's here. We love Faith Divides Us, Death Unites Us. Great classic track. Gothic, great song. Gothic was the very first song I heard from Paradise Lost, with those haunting female vocals. They're here, by the way, as well. I got chills when I first heard them. Great stuff. The Enemy, great song. One of the stronger songs on this album. As I Die, another classic song. And of course it ends with Darker Thoughts, which is from Obsidian. Great song, great album closer. We should also talk about the included 12-page color booklet. Has the cover there, but there's some really nice stuff in here. I like a lot of the art design in this booklet here. Great pictures from the performance. Great performance. Again, if you haven't gone to the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel and watched a couple of the tracks that I'm going to talk about momentarily, a couple of music videos, you should definitely check those out. More pictures of the performance. Got some lyrics here and the track listings. And some credits. So speaking of those live performance videos on the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel, there are 3 that are currently out. One for Darker Thoughts, probably one of my favorites of the 3. Also one for As I Die, and one for 1 Second. I should also mention that this performance is on Blu-ray with an added CD of the album, if that's of interest to you. I'm usually not a big fan of these lockdown live stream recordings, whether it's the video or having it laid to audio form, but I really love the track listing here. The overall performance is really good, so I'm glad I got this. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've been spinning this over and over again, so recommended. And as promised in last month's episode, this is the second album for Paul Di'Anno's Battlezone. This is Children of Madness, originally released in 1987, but this is the Back on Black 2021 reissue. So this record in many ways follows musically from the last album I talked about. There has been a bit of a lineup change. Drummer Sid Falk is gone at this point. This is 1987, so he's already off to Overkill. John Wiggins is still here, as well as Paul Di'Anno. The other 3 guys are new. John Wiggins, by the way, was on the first 3 Tokyo Blade albums, though this sounds nothing like Tokyo Blade. Let's get that out of your head. But yeah, so these are the 2 core members from the last album. Another thing that carried over from the first album, particularly in its production, was the premature fade-outs of some of the tracks. It's really strange. Like, you'll be hearing the track, and it seems like it has a few more seconds to go, and then it quickly fades out, and I don't know why that happens. Again, it's on this record, too. It's really strange. A vinyl variant for this one is transparent red, a very popular color for Back on Black. Shouldn't it be black? I don't know. Anyways, it also comes with the typical inserts for Back on Black. You get the records that they put out, and even more of them. So if you're ever curious about Back on Black, you should definitely check them out. They have a nice selection of a lot of reissues of classic and not-so-classic metal albums, but you should definitely check them out. Back on Black. So I should also mention a slight difference between the vinyl track listing and the digital track listing that's out there. The digital version has a song called To the Limit. It's not here on the vinyl, but the vinyl has a song called Overloaded, and that's not on the digital version. So there's that 1 track difference in case you're streaming it and you hear an unfamiliar song. There it is. Also, let's just take a quick look at the gatefold here. Basically, your garden variety lyrics. I'd rather they be pictures, but sometimes they just do that. They throw lyrics. Whatever. So to be honest, I have mixed feelings about this album. There are a few really good tracks, the ones I mentioned, but the rest of it is a lot of filler, and that kind of sucks. I mean, Paul Di'Anno has this very memorable voice. He comes from a very memorable band, such being Iron Maiden. There is some expectation there that he should have a very good band behind him. It's not always the case here. So if you're curious, you should check this record out, but I wouldn't expect to be blown away by it. Next is the debut album for American epic doom metal band Crypt. This is Out of the Garden, released in 2015 by Dark Descent Records. So straight out the gate, it should be mentioned there's a lot of Candlemass worship going on here, but some of the epic influence I'm hearing really seems like it's straight out of Dio's playbook. I'm also hearing faint hints of Trouble, the band Trouble, so if you're into those bands, you should probably check this album out. One thing I noticed is that Brooks Wilson's voice, though pretty great on this album, does evolve into something better on the follow-up album. You might remember it was called The Ruins of Fading Light. I covered that in a previous video. Do a search for that if you want to hear my thoughts on that record. But don't count him out. He's still pretty great on this record. The vinyl variant for this one is the 2019 repress on Classic Black. There you go. And we also have an inner sleeve with full lyrics, nice art design here, as well as more lyrics and some credits. Of course, I do have some favorites on this record that we should discuss. The opening track, Temple Doors, great song, love that song a lot. Into the Holy of Holies, probably my favorite song on the album, I really like it quite a bit. And the title track, Out of the Garden, also great. So I couldn't find any music videos for this band, but there are plenty of live performances on YouTube, a lot of live shows. You should probably check them out. They seem like they really excel live. I'd love to see this band live, just from those videos alone. So I'm pretty happy with this album. When I'm wanting to hear this band, I'm definitely going to want to spin this and the follow-up album back to back. So yeah, pretty good. No complaints. So going back to 1984 for this Canadian compilation from Attic Records. This is Metal for Breakfast. Great cover, right? The back's not too bad either. So a lot of classic hits from this album, a lot of classic bands, but also a few Canadian acts because it is Attic Records. We have Killer Dwarves on here, we have Lee Aaron, we have Anvil, and we have Blotto, whoever the hell they are. It's an awful song. It's called Metalhead. Totally skippable. We should also take a look at the vinyl, of course, as you can imagine, because it's 1984. It is classic black with the Attic Records logo. There's a typo on the label for Crazy Train. Randy Rhoads is co-credited. Obviously, he wrote the song for the most part. His last name is spelled wrong. It's spelled R-H-O-D-E-S instead of the other way. So that's kind of fun. We should talk about some of my favorites on here, for sure. The Merciful Fate with Black Funeral. Love that song. Who doesn't love that song? We got Judas Priest with The Ripper. Ozzy Osbourne with Crazy Train, as I alluded to before. Yeah, it's a good little comp. There's a lot of classic stuff on here. The one head scratcher, though, is, speaking of head scratching, is Cat Scratch Fever from Ted Nugent. It's kind of the odd man out on this comp. Don't know why it's here, but there it is. As I mentioned before, Lee Aaron is on here with Metal Queen. Lee Aaron was kind of a bigger deal in Canada than she was in the United States. She's here, obviously, because she's Canadian. She also did a spread in Wii Magazine. I think it was back in 1983, a topless spread. If you're interested in that, go do the Google search. But, yeah, she's okay. Who else is on here? We have Accept with Balls to the Wall. We've got Saxon with Princess of the Night. We have Y&T with Mean Streak. We have Quiet Riot with Mental Health. Again, big names, and then they threw a few Canadian acts in as well. So it's a decent little comp, but I would have preferred some of the heavier Canadian bands of the time. By this time, it's 1984, so Voivod is out. Also, Exciter has their first album at this point, and the Razor EP is also out, but I know that wouldn't get along with some of the more mainstream commercial music that's on this record. This feels more like a K-Tel comp than a serious heavy metal comp, but I still dig it, still spinning it quite a bit, so yeah, I'm keeping this one. Next is the 2020 Relapse Records reissue of the second album for Amorphis. This is Tales from the Thousand Lakes, originally released in 1994. So right away, this is an evolution, albeit a slight evolution from their first album, The Corellian Isthmus. It's definitely doom metal, but there's also some melodic death metal going on. There's some prog, there's a little bit of folk metal, so a bit of a mix. Also, there are a couple other changes. Keyboards are brought in. They're a little more prominent on this album. Not overwhelmingly, they do complement the music. Also, the vocalist has more clean vocals going on here, and that would be happening going forward with this band. So that's what's going on with this record. Vinyl variant for this one is Royal Blue Cloudy Effect. Amazing color. It looks much better when you hold it up to the light. Also custom labels. Limited to 2,136 copies, which is weird. We also have an insert with this illustration, as well as lyrics and some credits. I pretty much love this album back to back. There are 4 songs that are definitely favorites of mine. I love First Doom. Black Winter Day is probably one of the best songs on here, as well as In the Beginning and Magic and Mayhem. And while this album is over 25 years old, there is a music video from it. Black Winter Day is the video. You can find it at the Relapse Records YouTube channel in all of its 4:3 aspect ratio glory. So despite some occasional moments of repetition, this is still a very listenable album. This is where I leave off with Amorphis. After this, I've heard a bunch of their albums I haven't really liked all that much, but don't let that stop you from recommending an Amorphis record to me. Maybe you like some of that material. You should definitely let me know in the comments what your favorite is and why you dig it. But this is a great album. Love this record. Now here's a record store find I didn't even know existed until now. This is Raven, along with, of all people, Udo Dirkschneider. This is the Break the Chain EP, released in 1983 by Roadrunner Records in association with Neat Records. So this is basically the single for Break the Chain from their All for One album. Great album, you should totally hear it. The B-side are a couple tracks. One is their cover of Born to be Wild, as well as their own track, Inquisitor. And both have vocals from Udo Dirkschneider of Accept, which is amazing. So I'm not too surprised that Udo is here. He did help produce the All for One album, so maybe they just knocked this off in the studio while they had some time. Not sure, but it's kind of cool, right? Udo and Raven. A vinyl variant for this one, as you could well expect, is Classic Black, with the equally classic Roadrunner labels. Love that logo. It is the mark of quality for so many albums I bought in the 1980s. We should also talk about favorites. Break the Chain is a great song. It merits its own single or EP, depending on what you want to call it. Born to be Wild, I really believe that no one ever needs to cover that song ever again. It's a song that's been done to death by every single band. A slight aside here, as many know, I love the movie The Decline of Western Civilization, Part 2 of the Metal Years. My friend Max from Oregon also loves it quite a bit. He and I watched that movie when we were together quite a few times. We always skip the Lizzie Borden part with Born to be Wild because we just can't stand that song, and they're really awful with that song. They're a great band otherwise, but really that cover is just awful, as it usually is. But I'm going to make a small exception with this Born to be Wild. I think it's actually not too bad. I think what adds to it is Udo and John Gallagher going bananas vocally. They're just insane. There's a lot of energy there, so they really make the track their own, or simply a Raven song in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'm going to make a small exception for this. It's actually pretty decent to hear. Also, Inquisitor, their own song is pretty good. It's pretty good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with every track on here. So I'll be honest here, I wish there was an entire album of this. I think the pairing is pretty interesting. It's pretty great. It works out really well. The two of them just go mental together, to use a British term. So I'm definitely glad I found this EP. It was an amazing little find and quite a gem. I dig it. And while we're taking a trip down memory lane, let's talk about this 1986 release by Capitol Records. This is Herman the German and Friends by Herman the German, or Herman Rarebell if you're a Scorpions fan. So just a brief story about finding this record. I did find it in a record store, namely Burlington Records, here in Burlington, Vermont. I saw the record initially. I should say Burlington Records has the odd end record every once in a while. I always find kind of an odd little title there every so many months. This is kind of not really an exception. I should have been too surprised. But again, I had never heard of this record. So I saw the record. I initially passed it up. And then a couple days went by and I really started to think about it. I'm like, wow, that was a really weird record. I feel like I need that in my collection for some weird reason. And I don't know why. It felt impulsive. So I call up the record store and I'm like, can you put away the Herman's a German record? I actually said it like that. And they're like, of course we can. Because they know no one else is going to buy it. So they did. I got it home and listened to it, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. I also do want to read the hype sticker here for you really quick. Scorpions drummer Herman Rarebell steps out with some real heavyweights. Rat's Bobby Blotzer and Juan Crucier, Jack Russell from Great White, Steve Merritt from Humble Pie, Charlie Hunn from Ted Nugent and Gary Moore, and Don Dokken are among the stars. An admirable disc to hold over the Scorpions fans until their next LP. Circus Magazine quote. There you go. So as you can imagine from this cover alone, there's a lot of goofiness going on here. I mean, the color scheme kind of lends to it as well on the cover. There are sound effects in a couple of these songs. Really strange. There's a cover of Wipeout. It's actually the music video from this album. It's pretty schmaltzy and ridiculous as well. I'm not sure if this is really intended to be a joke. I mean, it feels like a joke. I mean, there's a song called Rock Your Balls on it. So I'm not sure how seriously a lot of these folks took this. I would say with the sole exception of Don Dokken, his vocal performances on the few tracks he's on is actually really good. He is kind of the shining star on this record. Otherwise, though, it feels like it was done as a lark. Vinyl variant for this one, of course, it's black. With the Capitol Records labels, the classic Capitol Records labels. You might recognize this from Megadeth as well. I'm more familiar with Megadeth having these labels. I'm also Frank Sinatra, if you're a fan. But pretty cool. I do have a couple favorites. Of course, they are the songs where Don Dokken is singing, which is I'll Say Goodbye and Hard Sensation. Both really good tracks. You should check them out. As I mentioned, of course, there is a video for Wipeout. It's pretty ridiculous, but if you want to check that out, Herman the German Rarebell has his own official YouTube channel. That's where the video is. Go check it out if you want to, I guess. I really feel this is an example of someone from a very, very successful band basically doing a solo record and doing whatever the hell they want, and the label saying, okay, do whatever the hell you want. I mean, Capitol could have put the kibosh on this if they wanted to. They could have been like, this is goofy. Why are you doing this? But no one said no to Herman, so this is the record that got out. Amazing. So except for Don Dokken singing on this record and the very fun album title to pronounce, this is largely a forgettable record. I mean, it's unintendedly funny, it's intendedly funny, take your pick, but it was barely worth the $6 I paid for it. But not a lot more than that. Next up is the fourth studio album from all-female Swiss power metal band Burning Witches. This is The Witch of the North, released in 2021 by Nuclear Blast Records. So a couple things right away with the difference between this record and the last one. You might remember Dance with the Devil. I covered it before. You should probably check that out as well. One is the variation of tempos on this album. There's a lot more going on tempo-wise than there was in the previous album. Also, Laura Goldemont's voice. The vocal range is a lot more expanded here. She does a lot more with her voice in general. I think that might be because she's finding her footing in this band finally. She isn't the original vocalist of this band, as many know. I think she's really settled in with Burning Witches, and this record is a testament to that. I think she sounds really good on it. Vinyl variant for this one is 2LP clear with blue splatter, limited to 300 copies. Really love this variant quite a bit. It also comes in a gatefold jacket, picture of the band, lyrics, credits, liner notes, all of that. Of course, I'm going to go through some favorites. We love the favorites here. Flight of the Valkyries, probably one of the best songs on here. Also, The Circle of Five. You might remember they did an EP for that song ahead of time. I covered that in a previous video. Still love the song, so it's right here as well. Also, Dragon's Dream, great song as well. The album ends with a cover tune. Burning Witches tends to do that on almost every album. They've done Manowar and Judas Priest and another band I'm forgetting right now. This time they're doing Hall of the Mountain King, originally done by Savatage. It's a respectable version. I like it. There's a lot of energy to it, a lot of power to it. I do prefer the original, however. I'm a little biased because I love classic Savatage, but it's very listenable. Still dig it. Of course, if you're looking for music videos for this album, there are 3 of them. There's one for Flight of the Valkyries, there's one for We Stand as One, and there's also one for the title track. You should check all 3 of those out. They're pretty good. Overall, I feel that Burning Witches does shine best in their more up-tempo tracks. I would highly suggest those and that they do more of that in the future. I think it's a really cool thing. This album is very listenable, but I do feel like they have some future growth in store for them, but the promise is definitely here. This is a good album. It's definitely worth hearing. And that's it for another episode of Vinyl Haul. Remember, if you dug this video, give it a like. Also, share the video with some friends and subscribe if you haven't already done so. This is the Accusation Network. I do metal vinyl collecting videos each and every week. Check out all my playlists because I do a whole lot of different shows, not just vinyl hauls. Definitely check out those playlists. Also, let me know in the comments which bands you like, which bands you didn't like. Maybe some of these albums are favorites of yours. Maybe you really hate them. Let me know all that in the comments. Also, let me know about some music recommendations. Maybe some of these bands remind you of other bands you think I would like. You probably have a good sense of what I like. You've probably seen some of these videos already, so definitely let me know in the comments. Super appreciate it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.